Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Korinna, your human design and alignment guide.
And I am Skylar Shay, your personal energetic guide, intuitive cheerleader, and high-level professional coach.
And welcome to Raise Your Freak. We created this podcast because we are driven to live to our fullest potential and want to share our experiences and obsessions with the frequency-curious individuals out there. We go live every Friday at 11:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom, so you can be part of the conversation.
I'm so excited about all of this because I love podcasts, but I always find myself wanting to ask questions. By offering you the opportunity to join us live, this means you can ask your questions in real time.
Each week, you can expect various conversations regarding all things human frequency, as well as support to help you integrate.
We understand the importance of tending to your frequency and engaging in topics as it helps you along your path to expansion and alignment.
Our goal is to help you feel a part of a community as you navigate your journey through this lifetime.
We look forward to connecting with you every week live at our Zoom headquarters, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I think we covered everything, Skylar.
I think so too.
Okay, let's dive in. Hello, Skylar Shay.
Hi, Korinna Elizabeth.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Are you going to the... No, you won't be going to your property this weekend.
No, we were talking about maybe going Sunday to Tuesday. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
That would be nice.
We're going to go with the flow.
Amazing. Korinna lives on a nice property, but she also has a very nice property on a river.
Yeah. One of my biggest manifestations to date. It's absolutely stunning out there. 10 acres, heavily wooded, river flowing on by. So nice. It's really beautiful.
You're talking about manifestation. We're on part 3 today.
Yes.
Part 3 of our exploration of manifestation. And each week, first week was all about just the generics of manifestation. Some of these hit words, what they mean, and how to start the process. And then last week, we talked about inspired action. So this week, we decided to talk about something that really can actually prevent inspired action from even coming through if there isn't a balance in this. And so what we're talking about is known as, in a couple different ways, either yin and yang energy or yin and yang energy within us. It's also considered masculine and feminine energy. And so it is the energy of the masculine archetype, the energy of that feminine archetype. And these energies exist within all of us, not their toxic versions of self, but the basic versions of what it is, the generic versions of what it is to be in your feminine energy versus what it is to be in your masculine energy. When they are out of balance, that is when we start getting in our own ways. And when they are balanced, that's when we are in the most aligned flow for ourselves. And what I want to just reiterate here is that we're not talking about the gendered dynamics. We're not talking about even the toxic masculine or feminine archetypes. Like, what we're talking about here is when we talk about feminine energy. Actually, you brought something up about like how to bring it into our day to day, but like feminine energy is a little bit more of that nourishing energy. It is the energy that allows us to feel really comfortable and nourished in a space. It's the energy that is a little bit maybe considered slower, but there's more of a lean back to it, more of a surrender to it, a trusting of the process.
Yeah.
Whereas the masculine energy is a little bit more action oriented. It's a little bit more around constructing your safety and your security. And so it has to do with the action towards our goals or the action towards life. Whereas the feminine is the intuition, the consideration of what's coming next. So even in our conversation last week, hilariously enough, inspired action is the feminine and the masculine coming together. But within society, we focus so much more on and praise that masculine energy so much more. So that action, that doing energy, that productivity energy. And sometimes we are so busy doing that we forget to actually listen. We forget to, and sometimes we don't even have the space to listen because we've been doing so much doing. We're so full of life that we might not feel as in flow anymore because we haven't allowed ourselves to lean into our feminine and honor our feminine. Oftentimes, the only time you go into your feminine is when you're forced to, when you get sick, when you get injured. And I would argue that a lot of injuries, especially if you get injuries a lot on your right side of the body, this can indicate that there might be an imbalance either side of the body, but there might be a bit of an imbalance with that masculine energy if it's on the right side of the body, and it's reminding you that you've got to lean back, or vice versa. So the reason why I bring up the right side and the left side is because generally these energies come into our body. So you have in your brain, the way that the more masculine energy comes, it actually comes on to the left side of the brain. And then the right side of the brain is more of the feminine. But then when it comes into the rest of the body, it's generally the left side of the body that feels the feminine and the right side of the body that feels the masculine. Now, this may vary for people at times, but I believe that it also varies because if you're not feeling it, if you feel the masculine in your left side, it could actually just be because you don't have any feminine energy coming through. Like you're blocking your feminine energy. You're too in your masculine. So that was something that in the transmission club this week, we actually focused on masculine and feminine energy. And I did a transmission for the girls. So it was a hypnosis meditation and with energy healing that really allowed for them to rebalance and recalibrate these energies. I originally felt that masculine energy within their left side at the beginning. Once they were recalibrated, they felt the balance differently. And so that's just an interesting play on how it shows up in the body.
Yeah. So like you said, the masculine is definitely more action oriented. It's all about creating to-do lists and checking off the list, whereas feminine is just a little bit more passive, a little bit more flow, a little bit more easeful. Taking a look at your day-to-day life, notice in your life, where are you feeling the imbalance? And I want to share this with you because something for me personally, it was back in, I want to say November, December. I really wanted to start. My ultimate intention was actually to open up my heart space. And it led me down this path of exploring the feminine. And I was able to get my hands on some pretty incredible books. I was reading all about the goddess energies, which was really helpful just to see and understand the archetypes and how they parlay through these goddesses. And so then that's led me to now. So for example, I'm a generator. And so I have naturally a lot of energy in me. And naturally, I just want to do. That is very much, I am constantly doing things. I'm from cleaning to cooking to do. I'm always doing all day long. When I start my mornings, the first thing I like to do, especially in this beautiful weather, is go for a run. Very action oriented, very using up my energy, which is very healthy for me. I feel so great afterwards. And so what I've been starting to do over the past few weeks is I go and I take a shower and then I come back outside and I do a intuitive yoga for myself. So I go out onto my lawn, so I connect to the ground, and then I just do some sort of flow sequence that feels super nourishing, super grounding. And then I usually end with some sort of like somatic movement to just feel the energy. Kind of looks like a dance, a seated dance, to move the energy and to flow it through. And then when I start my day, I feel so incredibly balanced. So it's like you're starting your day on the right foot. Now, feminine energy isn't yoga. It can be tarot pulling, right? It can be meditating. It can be just like going out into nature and just standing there, feet in the earth. Earth is very yin energy. Sun is very yang energy. And just connecting with Mother Earth and just like taking in the sights, taking in the sounds. It's feminine is your breath, right? It's your breath. It's the pause of life before the moving to do the next thing, which is the masculine.
So even when we're talking about yoga, for instance, like a restorative yoga class or a yin yoga class is obviously going to nurture the feminine a little bit more versus a flow yoga
Yes.
or a power yoga class, which is definitely going to nourish your masculine a bit more. Oh, Pilates, like feminine.
Yeah.
But not really. Like maybe if it's like I don't know if there's different levels to the Pilates, but you're wanting to acknowledge that the feminine is about more restoration and the masculine is more about action. And you need both so that you can stay in tune with your truth. Because sometimes when we get so busy in our masculine, then we start looking outside of ourselves rather than within ourselves for what our next steps are, for what our next moves are, or we just go on complete autopilot. And then all of a sudden we're like, how did we get here? I don't want to be here.
Yeah. I think a big thing too, and comes from my personal experience as being a recovering hyper independent person, is this idea of I'll just do it myself. I just need to do it myself. I know that generator energy is a lot in there as well, but my life has been very in my masculine. As I reflect on my life, very much I was always in my masculine, not really allowing that space and breadth for my feminine to come in. And so when you are hyper independent and you're like, I'll just do it myself, take a look at that. Where can you allow yourself permission to ask for help?
I find these energies really interesting to consider within relationships as well, whether it's a romantic relationship or even like a work relationship. And there also gets to be a dynamic and a play within the relationship too. Like, is someone more in their masculine and is the other person more in their feminine? And I think what can happen sometimes in especially romantic relationships is that both partners are operating more in their masculine and therefore almost like rubbing up against each other. And so sometimes, like, not to be gendered, but it could go either way, really. But sometimes it's okay to receive. And it doesn't always feel like comfortable to receive. So we tend to then block even our reception. So we don't even see sometimes what our partners are doing for us or how they're supporting us or their strengths in the way they want to support us because we're so busy trying to do that too. In the transmission club, I brought up sort of an example with my own partner, and I was realizing at one point, we don't have a very like traditional style of relationships. So sometimes I get a little bit in my head of what does our relationship look like if we're not living together, if we don't really have any desires for children. And sometimes I forget about the nourishment that's actually just in the relationship to begin with and thinking about what it isn't. And so the other day I was realizing he is so good at when I'm at his place and even when I'm at my place, making me feel really comfortable, making me feel really nourished and supported and safe in his space. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is his way of trying to be the protector or the supporter or create a sense of safety for me. It's like his way of showing up in his masculine. And I was ignoring it or not even seeing it and not allowing, for instance, here's the bigger couch. Sit here. So, no, sit on the shitty couch. And I don't care. You're bigger. And he's, no, sit. And so I'm rejecting his support because it's not coming through in the way that I'm feeling like it should come through, or I'm just ignoring it because I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. And as soon as I started leaning into and acknowledging that this is what he's doing from his heart space, it allowed this beautiful union or dynamic between the two of us. It made me comfortable because I was like, oh, he wants to do this. This is how he's showing affection.
Talking about relationships, I think it's also really good to highlight. So remember what we said at the beginning. Everyone has the masculine and feminine energies within them, right? So we're looking to have it balanced, but also our partners are looking to have it balanced. So a good question to ask yourself is, let's be honest, we are living in a world where there's this hyper masculine and hyper feminine. Are we nourishing their feminine so that they too can be balanced?
Mhm.
Are we holding space for them when they're feeling like they need to be more passive or receptive, or maybe if they're feeling strong emotions and they need to share it in a safe space? Are we holding space for that? Or is something getting triggered within us, our own masculine, feminine imbalance, that we're struggling to hold space for that too? Because we all carry this energy. It's not you identify as a female and you just have feminine. No, it's both is within us.
Yeah.
And so that's the key is obviously we're human beings and we're not perfect, but on a day-to-day basis, paying attention to these energies. And do you feel balanced? Do you feel more action-oriented? What can you do to adjust? And one of the things that I love so much, and we're talking sometimes just simple adjustments. Our dear friend Samantha often shares that when she's doing a lot of work and action-oriented, she'll take pause and put on a song and just move in her body and flow in her body just to balance out a little bit. So even something simple like that, taking that pause, whether it's like even just sitting and meditating or focus on your breathing, it's just something just to bring you back into that easeful state within your body can also be really beneficial.
If you've been in a place of not taking action, if you've been maybe in a place of, if you have a desire, a manifestation, but you're not working towards it by any means, you're just like sitting on the couch hoping one day it shows up. That's maybe being too in your feminine.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, and that could be because there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of resistance, there's stuff we can look at to acknowledge that. Or maybe you like, and I can see this a lot with nurses in particular, or school teachers sometimes, or people that are just get burnt out. You go so much in your masculine that eventually you burn out, and then you might not necessarily be sick specifically, but like you have no motivation or energy for anything else. So then you're being forced to be in your feminine, and maybe for a little period of time that is beneficial, but bringing back the balance will be supportive at one point. But the masculine, being too in the masculine, that is if you are burning out, if you're completely exhausted, if you don't feel in flow with life, if you feel like you are like constantly walking up the mountain, if you're swimming upstream
or
walking up the mountain and you never feel like you're coming down, you never feel in flow, it's probably because you're not honoring that feminine within you. It's probably because you're in your hyper masculine, and there will be a point that you will likely get injured or sick that's going to force you back into your feminine, going to help course correct you. So we can do this without the forced course correction. And for myself, like I broke my left foot 2 years ago, and maybe 3 years ago now. And that break was a very good example that I needed to learn to trust my process. And that was the like message that came through with that. And then on the last spring, I rolled the ankle on my right foot. And at that, the message really was to pivot, to course correct, to actually take more action in a different direction. And so for me, very much, and I see this within my clients a lot as well. If I think I said this differently at the beginning, but what I meant to say is like the left side of the body, if there are injuries on the left side, it often is a sign that you need to lean into your left. You need to surrender more. And if there's injuries that happen on the right, it might be that there is a imbalance of that masculine energy.
Interesting.
Yeah. And notice you can do a little body mapping on yourself. Acknowledge the different times that you've had different injuries in your life. And are they maybe even you're notoriously more right side injuries versus left side injuries, or maybe there is a particular body part or area that gets more injuries for you. And there's always messages in our injuries, like our emotions, our mind, and our spirit are not disconnected.
The body keeps score.
Exactly.
It's a great book for anyone that's wanting to explore that.
I'm going to butcher this, but I'll put it into the show notes. Louise Hay has a book as well, and it's like literally an encyclopedia. different injuries, physical injuries, and how they're connected to an emotional state of being.
Yeah.
And I find them to be quite accurate for my own experiences or even helping my clients understand sort of some perpetual feelings they have. For example, 2 weeks ago, I woke up and then went to meditate and I lied down. And when I got back up from the meditation, I hurt my shoulder. It was so painful. Like, it was actually so silly that it was such a drastic pain that occurred. Like, I ended up having to go to a chiropractor and it's better now. But like, I couldn't even breathe without feeling the pain. And it happened so fast and it happened for absolutely no reason logically that I was like, this has got to be an emotional issue. My body is telling me something. And so sure enough, looking in that book, I discovered that shoulder pain or like scapula style pain can be related to basically not listening to yourself, like not listening to your emotions or your intuition. And so there was a message there that I understood for sure. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Need to operate in this way. And so I've shifted that a little bit. And sure enough, like the chiropractor for sure helped. And then, but I didn't have to go back. Like my shoulder is completely fine at this point.
That's good. So understanding and taking just a little bit of a audit of your life of, do you feel like you're operating more in your masculine or in your feminine? How can you balance the yin and the yang together? So that alone, just for life, that's very beneficial. Now, when it comes to manifestation, let's really talk about the importance of finding those balances and having those balances, because as you said at the beginning, if you're not paying attention to your feminine, you might actually be blocking yourself from really getting inspired action.
Yeah. So for myself, I notice this all the time. When you're a business owner, especially, or an entrepreneur, some of my bigger manifestations are about being able to be completely self-sufficient and working on my own and the freedom of being able to travel and work. Sometimes I get so busy in the action and the trying of, and like, oh, how am I going to bring money in next month? And the computer work. And then I always have to step back and we can bring feminine in every single day. And there are probably times where you will lean more into your masculine or more into your feminine. Like, it's okay that they're not always in direct balance. However, be aware of that for yourself. When you're starting to feel overwhelmed, when you're starting to not see vision again, if you're clouding yourself in fear of just like putting the head down and just doing the work, that's an acknowledgement that like, ooh, bring in some more of that feminine, bring in some more flow, bring in some more play. Like, life doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because when we talk about masculine, again, it's very action oriented. It's to-do lists. It's that movement. Oftentimes, when we are looking to call something into our life, we want to know the how. And we like, okay, I need to do this. In order for me to, I'll use an example, manifest property on the water, these are the things that I need to do. And you can very easily fall into that trap of all the action as opposed to just allowing the universe to guide your way. So when my partner and I first walked the property last year, I was very much in a position of beautiful property, absolutely stunning, but to be totally honest, I didn't want to have another mortgage. But I knew, I saw what I was doing. And so looked at that and I kept that to myself because it was just not beneficial. And as we came to now owning the property, and my reflection upon it was, I was just in a complete state of allowing. I wanted property on the water, but I was expecting that was going to be 50-year-old Korinna. So I was trying to maybe control the timeline. And that's not how manifestations happen, period. Like, no matter what, that's not how manifestations happen. You have to be open to receive the timeline from the universe, because there's always going to be lessons there. So it was a beautiful lesson of, this is really what happens when you stand back and allow and remain curious as to how things are going to manifest or evolve into your life.
And from like a nuanced energetics perspective, the masculine energy feels more comfortable because it makes us feel like we are in control. And that like action creates
like analytical.
It's more logical. It's more analytical. In thinking, like the masculine energy is more logical, is more analytical. Yet, if we're always in that space, then actually what can happen sometimes if we don't allow ourselves to rest, if we don't allow ourselves to lean into more feminine aspects, then we actually are like pushing away the manifestation. We are actually not creating space for it to come in, because when we lean into our feminine, that's when we are able to create more space. We create more space within our body because we simply are just allowing ourselves to rest. We create more space in our mind because we are able to start like maybe not focusing on the task at hand, which then can bring in a new inspired action that maybe we hadn't considered. And being able to dance back and forth between these, or acknowledge when you need to lean back or when you need to take action, is going to be really helpful in continuing the flow.
And the lesson is really finding balance in life
and listening to yourself.
And you're your own authority. And that's a big thing when it comes to within human design, is that you really learn that you are your own authority. Even if you are a soundboard authority, which involves you speaking and communicating your thoughts or whatever, your decisions that you need to come to conclusion on, even though you're doing it to somebody, it's not to receive advice. It's still just to hear your own truth. You will hear your truth. You will hear your knowing. You will hear the answer to the decision that you need to make. And so that's a big thing too, is trusting in yourself, trusting that you already know the answer. You already know your truth. Just sometimes it's muddled. Sometimes it just takes time to come to express that and to have harmony and balance in life. Because, and we say this, but I really want to hammer it home. There's a time for action and there's a time for rest. There's a time for taking steps to make things happen. And there's a time of trust and faith. And learning that dance at first might seem like a complex tango. And you're like, oh, I've got two left feet, or I've got two right feet. But if you just practice, learn the moves, practice it, play with it, have fun with it, give yourself a shit ton of grace, which is really important too as you evolve and as you grow and as you expand. You'll learn it, you'll understand it, and then you'll notice, you're like, oh, wow, that was a very yang day. I'm going to do some things that are nourishing, just feel a little bit more balanced in my life. Or, whoa, I had a very yin day, so I'm going to make some more actionary steps to balance out that energies.
Like I would say, do a little inventory of what your routines look like. And when you look at those routines or those things that fill your cup that you enjoy doing, it's like how much of them are more masculine in nature and how much of them are more feminine in nature. And if they're all pretty masculine in nature, maybe you can be adding in a feminine. If you are a real routine person, it can be really good to help switch up your routine sometimes. That really helps to get creative juices flowing. That really helps to start shifting your identity a little bit in order to move towards what it is that you're looking for yourself. And so, like, an example that you had from this week even was you woke up one day and you didn't feel like running right away. She didn't even feel like going for the run. And so you grabbed a book instead and
laid here.
Incredible.
And it's funny because it was the day after, it was Thursday. So it was the day after the Transmission Club. And for somebody like myself, I have the 515 within human design. So routines and patterns are a big aspect of my life. For me to give myself grace and compassion and understand, ooh, I really don't want to go for that run. Old me But I noticed it immediately and I knew, I'm like, oh, this is because I'm feeling way more balanced and my body just wants a little bit of rest. And so I honored that and gave myself complete grace without any judgment whatsoever. And it was perfect. It was amazing. And I had a beautiful day of some action, some rest, and it just felt really good. And it carries on into today. Like today, I feel just much more balanced, much more at ease with the flow of things. It's so interesting how it actually does affect your mindset a little bit. I notice a difference of it's almost like a come what may, but not in a super passive way, just like a come what may, like in a more fun, playful way.
Yeah.
That's how I feel it.
And it's funny, like the whole reason I even started, like wanted to talk about the masculine and feminine in the Transmission Club this week was because like I just got off like a weekend where I was starting a new launch or a new sale. So I was working every day, just a little bit every day on the weekend, but I hadn't had a break really like from my mental work. And then it was my birthday on Monday. So also accumulated within the whole weekend was lots of different social events and all of that's so beautiful. And so then Tuesday shows up and it's funny because I didn't feel like I truly overexerted myself all that much throughout the weekend. So I was even a little bit shocked when Tuesday showed up and I was exhausted, like absolutely hit a wall, couldn't really think properly, like brain fog. And I was like, oh, like I even woke up being like, oh, I feel like I didn't feel sick by any means, but I was wishing to have a sick day. Like, it was like when you're like a little kid and you're just like, oh, I just want to be like home today in bed and be nourished. And that's how I felt. And I was like, oh, you actually don't have any clients today. You don't have any specific to-dos, which was such a grace for me that it was like, lean into that, take this day. And so the one appointment that I did have, I did reschedule it and was so grateful to. And sure enough, like there was work that I did want to get done that by about 6 o'clock, I had the energy and I did it and it felt good to do it. It would have taken me so much longer to have done it if I had forced myself to do it earlier in the day because I was exhausted. So that's the example of when you take space, you actually become more productive. So sometimes if you have the availability to do so within your schedule, if something isn't feeling good to do, stop and come back to it. Like do something that's maybe a little bit more feminine, less action oriented or vice versa. And so that when you do come back to it, you're not procrastinating. You're just deciding that, or your energy is telling you, we don't have space for this right now. Come back to it.
Listening to your body, like really listening to your body. It's really important just to have your finger on the pulse to say, how are you feeling in this moment? What can I do to nourish myself? What can I do to just feel more into me, whether it's like I need to take a little bit more action or I just need to chill and give yourself permission and grace on that.
And in a compassionate way.
Yes. There's no judgment zone. There's not, oh no. I was too much in my masculine. This is not what this is about. This is really about grace and kindness towards yourself because you're human and there's no such thing as perfection. This is just how can we be observers of our life and how can we really rise to be our optimal selves?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, great. I have an idea to close this up today where we usually pull a card. But today I want you to really watch this and really practice leaning into your intuition, leaning into that feminine a little bit more. And I want you to pick one card or
love it.
So
Got it.
Now give yourself a moment, pause this if you need to, and consider, are you needing to receive the messages from card 1 or are you needing to receive the messages from card 2? And maybe both cards will be supportive for you, but focus on one card right now. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to think of what card is best for me. And usually I'll let everyone do it for a sec. Okay. Usually for me, and for anyone, it's like right away.
Yeah.
And then your mind might be like, oh no, but so trust whatever comes through right away. What came through for you?
2.
Oh, good. 1 came through for
Oh,
me.
and I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Okay. You know what we should do? Since 2 came through for you, you pull
The second, you
the
pull the
second.
first.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're back to the Akashic deck. Oh, I saw that you brought a deck too, actually.
Oh, yeah. They're called soul cards. The only thing is that the book is online, but this is how they look. They're so feminine. I'm obsessed with them. They're really beautiful.
So I have never pulled this card yet.
Ooh. Oh, wait.
And
Should we show? They need to choose first, right?
pause now if you haven't.
Okay.
And choose a card. So this is card 1, and it is the 5 of Scrolls, diversity, but it was upside down, but I'll show it to you right side up. And I'll read it to you as Korinna's picking her card. So the 5 of Scrolls, diversity reversed. Too many things are happening at once, and you may be confused about which to do. So many alternatives lie before you that you hesitate to act on any of them. It's time to make a choice and focus on one thing. Don't be afraid that you'll get trapped in your choice. All the other interests that you hold will still be around later, and you'll always have the freedom to change things in the future. Worrying about the things that you're not doing or having now only defines your life in lack. Recognize that choosing a single focus in the present gives you total freedom to act on it fully. Your life has turned into a smorgasbord of opportunities. Close your eyes and imagine an array of all the many different things that interest you. Give yourself permission to try them. How can you do that in the coming weeks?
So I pulled this card earlier, but I know that it's looking ahead. So
Okay.
I pulled a second one just in case.
In the reverse position, the lookout may seem to have fallen and lost his position, but he is now free from the heat of battle. You may find yourself in the throes of a sudden and difficult loss, perhaps a job, a relationship, or a major creative opportunity. As painful and challenging as it might seem, it is truly a gift in disguise. This loss actually takes you out of a conflict and sets you free to reach for an even higher opportunity. You don't have to be on the defensive any longer. You're on your way to a longer than life.
Yeah.
So, what do the details in that card tell you about your role as lookout in this situation? So, 14, and it was upright, correct? Initiation and the Count Saint Germain. Upright, standing among the pillars within a beautiful temple, the ascended master Count Saint Germain sends his light and energy to the 4 robed people who stand before him. It is time for their initiation. This card represents your initiation. It is much more than a change or even a transformation. It's nothing less than your movement into higher revelations of power, insight, and achievement. And the time is now. Some loss of lower vibration relationships, jobs, and activities may be required in order to lift you to the new heights and power that await you. Your initiation can be aided by meditation and study, as well as by connecting to the ascended masters with whom you have worked for centuries upon centuries. Know that you have shared purposes and activities with the masters, even if you aren't certain of what they are yet. The work you do with the masters will lift your service to the world and to all humankind. This is a time of enormous uplifting. First in your energy and evolution, then in your manifest outer reality. The power that you hold within will impact every part of your life. Close your eyes and see yourself on the path of your initiation with the Count Saint Germain beside you. Feel your energy and receptivity heighten as your vibration quickens, realizing there are no limits or hindrances. But the word that kept on coming through my mind all week was pivot. And I think both cards give that sense of, like, your first card at least. If things don't feel like they're working out, it's okay to create a little pivot. And that pivot will be supported, and just allow yourself to bring in the masculine, bring in the feminine, surrender to a greater source, and take the inspired action when it feels necessary. And you'll be supported either way. So if you have a whole bunch of different paths ahead of you, what one feels like it's lighting up right now, go down that one. And then for the second card, one chapter might feel like it's closing, or something might not feel like it's moving. Well, ditch it and allow to acknowledge that it's only not happening because there's another opportunity meant for you.
Yeah.
That's what I resonated with.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Oh, what I was going to say too, it really doesn't resonate unless you're going to watch this over the next weekend or next week. So if you're watching this beginning of August, we are going through like a Chiron transit right now. And so what that means energetically for us is that things might be coming up within our shadows or within our subconscious that is making us realize or acknowledge areas of our life that maybe we have felt like unseen in or stuck in, or like Chiron's all about our wounded warrior, essentially. So if there are weird relationship things coming up, if there's weird just revelations that you're having, really allow yourself to trust them and just acknowledge, oh, great, coming up for consciousness so that I can clear this, so that I can move through this. And in this month of August, we're at the very beginning of it right now, because of this realization and this awareness, it might be even more supportive for you to be doing hypnotherapy or energy style work that's going to support your mindset, work that's going to support your energy, so that you can really clear away some of these aspects. And so I know August feels like an odd time for that because you're busy socializing and blah, blah, blah. But if invest in yourself at this time, if you are feeling like there are things that are coming up for you that are you're acknowledging that need to be cleared, that need to be released.
There's also the 8/8 portal coming up.
Oh yeah, huge manifestation portal.
As best you can, making sure that those shadows aren't really getting in the way of what you're calling in.
Well, and what they're supposed to be doing right now is actually coming up to the surface so that they can be cleared, so that you can call in. So they will likely be related to issues around your own confidence, issues around your own self-worth, issues around your self-image. And so you might be seeing the root, like there might be family dynamics coming through. There might be a memory or a dream that you have of something. And it's, ooh, okay, consciously this is coming up so that I can clear this, not to stay stuck in it.
Yeah. Love it.
All right. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget to hit and subscribe.
And leave a comment if you've liked it.
Yeah, we love comments. Let us know what you think. We love to connect with everyone that's watching. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.